Parametric EQ is fantastic for polishing and fine-tuning guitar tones, but it's less of a guitar effect and more of a pro audio tool, which can sometimes make it a little bit confusing. What's up everyone, my name is Matthew Dale, and in today's video I'm going to share with you my strategies for using Parametric EQ. Alright, so I'm using my PRS DGT plugged straight into the Fractal FM3, and I've got one of my templates pulled up. This one is based around the Marshall JTM45, and if you'd like some more information on some templates that I've put together, you can hit the link in the description below. And if you'd like some killer go-to settings on some of my favorite Fractal amplifiers, hit the link in the description below for my Fractal Favorites Amps and Cabs guide. So I've got the JM45 pulled up, I've got a little bit of grit dialed in on the bridge pickup, it sounds like this. Sounds awesome. If you dial the volume back just a little bit, you get a really nice clean tone. And that sounds really good as well. Before we dial in Parametric EQ, I also want to get a little bit of a heavier drive tone set up, so I'm going to pull in a drive block and pull up the Tone of Kings, there it is. And I want to slam the front end of this amplifier, level on 10. Let's bring the drive up a little bit more to 7 or so, and we've got this. And I like that as well. We'll turn it off and we will pull in a Parametric EQ block. And notice I have this set up right after the amp and cab. So I'm kind of simulating what a traditional guitar rig might look like if we are set up on a stage somewhere. So you'd have your guitar plugged into your pedal board, going to your amp, and then going to your cabinet, and then there would be a microphone on that cabinet. That is all stuff that would be happening over in this section of our grid. And then when the front of house engineer captures your cab tone with a microphone, one of the first things they will probably do to your guitar tone is put an EQ on it. Now, Parametric EQ is a very specific type of EQ that looks like this. Each one of these bands has a frequency control, which can allow you to sweep continuously between frequencies. And then the gain knob will either boost or cut those frequencies. And the Q controls how wide or how narrow the affected frequencies are. So I've reset that so we can do some work on it. Now, the type of EQing that I like to do when the EQ is right here is something called Subtractive EQ. This basically means that we are going to cut frequencies rather than boosting them. And this is particularly good when you have a tone that's already really good. There's nothing that I really don't like about this tone. It sounds, 90% of the way there. We're just going to use the EQ to get us 100% of the way there for a live environment. You can kind of think of this as a sculptor making a sculpture out of marble. The sculpture is already there within the block of marble, but he or she is going to chisel away at the unnecessary bits to bring out the artwork within. So the first things that I would do would be going over to band 1 and 5 and select the blocking EQ type over here. So now I've got an aggressive cut on the low end and on the high end as well. I'll bring this down to 100 Hertz on band 1, and then I usually like to start around 6500, and then we're gonna go over to the slope and make this more aggressive. So 24 decibels per octave on each of those bands. And I find that that's better than leaving it at 12, because if I really need to get some excess low end or high end, I don't need to move the frequency up too much beyond where I need to make the cut. So I'm affecting less frequencies overall. So just doing this much so far will actually give us a better live tone from the get-go. So if I just bypass this, here's what we had. And now with the EQ, basically shelving off the lows and the highs. Not a whole lot of change there, which of course is what we want. But when you're playing through an FRFR system, the FRFR is going to be capable of reproducing everything up to 20,000 Hertz and everything down to 20 Hertz, give or take. And when playing at live, loud volumes, those frequencies can really build up. They can be really harsh in the high end or really muddy in the low end. And just in general, whenever you are dialing in tones to use live, you want to dial them in loud. There's something called the Fletcher Munson effect, which basically tells us that human hearing is different across different loudness levels. So if you're dialing in something for live, turn it up. So now if I was dialing this in more for live, I might bring up the frequency on the low end a little bit more. So this is 120 hertz now, and then I might go down to, let's try 5500, and we've got this. Here it is off. So I'm just going to remove some of those excess lows where that muddiness lives. And now here's where the subtractive EQing really gets interesting. I'm going to start on band 4, and let's go ahead, and this is the traditional way to do this. You boost up the frequency, and I'm going to crank the Q to make this a very narrow frequency band. And I'm just going to sweep through the frequencies and listen to things I don't want. That's what I'm going to be removing. So you can kind of hear right around 4,000 hertz with this particular cabinet and particular IR. I'm not really liking what I've got there. If I boost this up a little bit more, you can hear it. A little bit spiky, a little bit not great is what I would call it. You can hear it really start to resonate around 4,000 hertz. So that is something that I don't want. I'm going to cut and get that out. And you don't need to be super aggressive on this. Just 2 dB, 3 dB should be enough. And now let's do the same thing on the third band. Let's look for something a little bit lower as well. So Q is all the way up max because I'm making surgical cuts. And let's listen to what there is being affected. Now 800 is good. 800 is usually kind of where like a 2 screamer or a Klon likes to live for boosting. There's a lot of resonance there around 2K as well. One great feature that the Fractal Parametric EQ block has is a solo bus on the individual bands. So if you want even greater control or greater listening ability on this, you can hit the solo, and this is what I'm hearing. So that's another frequency that I want to get out of there. Let's bring the gain back down just between 2 and 3. And let's see if we've got anything building up in the low end. Again, boost and bring the Q up. And let's go ahead and solo and just listen to this. And you can hear right around 150, there's this other low frequency hum, this resonance that's kind of building up. And that's another frequency that I'll want to get out of there as well. So let's listen to this off. And now on. And now let's go ahead and bring the drive in. Let's listen to the drive with the Parametric EQ off. And then with the Parametric EQ on. So again, if you are listening at low volumes or due to the compression of YouTube, this might sound like it gets a little bit mid-rangey and there's not a whole lot of body to it. But again, played at live, loud volumes, this will sit much better in a mix. Let me know if you found this helpful and if you are using parametric EQ in a lot of your own presets. My name is Matthew Dale, and I will see you guys on the next one.